and bring this down like this. All right, guys, we are back. Thank you for being patient there. We did a little bit of switch to get our guest set up here. We've actually got astronaut Mike Massimino with us here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
It's myself as well, and then NASA man Sawyer Rosenthien over here. We're going to be talking a little bit about Mike. Can I call you Mike? Is that cool?
Oh, yes, my name. So
that's what I should call you, right?
Yeah.
We're going to be talking a little bit about Mike's experiences in space, kind of what you do with the museum and that sort of stuff. So, you were an astronaut.
Yep.
How'd you like it?
It was a good job. I highly recommend it. It's probably the best. I think it's the best job you can have.
Yeah?
It's awesome. Yeah.
You worked on the Hubble. You went on other missions. What sort of missions stick out in your memory? What do you like about it? What did you think was awesome?
So the missions, I flew twice on the space shuttle. Once on Columbia, and I had a second shuttle flight on Atlantis, and both of those flights were to the Hubble Space Telescope.
Excellent.
Which is kind of interesting because most of our work, most of the focus of our work was actually space station. I became an astronaut in '96. We were just starting to gear up to build the station. The first assembly flight was flown a couple years later, and so most of my training and work that I did in the control center and so on was either for the space station or for flights that were building the space station. But the two flights I actually was on had nothing to do with the space station.
Right, y'all didn't even stop at the space station.
No, we just passed it, sort of. And,
passed it.
No, we were a bit higher and in a different inclination. So.
That's right. Is that the highest the shuttle ever went?
Yeah. So the idea behind it was with the telescope is you want to get the telescope as far away from Earth as possible.
Right.
So you were limited with that by how high you could, what altitude the shuttle could achieve.
Right.
And so
it was deployed by.
That's right. It flew. We have a space shuttle behind. Can you see this thing in your picture?
A little bit there.
Yeah. So it's pretty big.
Right there, yeah.
The Hubble's about the size of a school bus, and
which fits inside of this.
Which fits inside of the payload bay. So it was designed. In fact, all the pieces of the space station that were put together as well all had the requirement on the U.S. side of things. There's kind of like two major sides of the space station: the Russian segment and the U.S. or what we would call the U.S. operating system set, which includes our partners as well, the European countries of the European Space Agency, Canada and Japan.
Right.
So all that side of it had to fit inside. Any elements you had to fit inside of the shuttle.
Gotcha. And I'm actually switching over. I mean, one of the things we've done in KSP that works a lot better than our current iteration of the shuttle design we've been working on. We've actually got what we call the Kerbal International Space Station here.
Yeah, but we on stream too, so the stream can also see.
I will. I'll flip it over when it loads up here. So one of the things that we did on one of our shows was we went through and we learned about the space station and all the different modules, the European lab, the Kibo, the JEXA lab, the U.S. segments, and all the different parts. And so we made a replica of it here in KSP.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Which looked like this. And this one explodes about 1,000% less than the space shuttle we're working on right now. But I've put that on the screen over there. And let me make sure I get this up as well. But we can keep talking. I was just bringing this up to show you this is one of the other sorts of things we've done. We've got two Soyuzes docked here. Anytime we do like a Soyuz mission in real life, we'll do a show where we do it in the game as well, and we talk about who's going up and why, like the year in space we talked about and that sort of stuff.
That's great, yeah.
But this is just another thing we were doing with the game. I was just bringing this up as a visual aid of the sorts of things we do.
Yeah.
But we were talking about the Hubble. There's a huge Hubble exhibit here.
Yes, we're at the Intrepid Museum, and there's a Hubble exhibit right behind us
and
as well.
I think we can actually see that,
Yeah, the bright stuff underneath, like
right underneath there,
behind us.
Right behind your head,
that's what the display is.
Yeah, there it is, actually, the Hubble 25 right there.
Yep.
Outstanding. And you helped with that a little bit?
I did, yeah. I mean, Eric Baim and his team, the curating team here, did all the work. I made a couple suggestions.
Right.
But I like it. There's some. Have you been over there?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we walked around.
I've been over there.
Yeah. Every time we take a break, we walk around there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So you got a bunch of our tools that we actually used in space. And a handrail that I had to remove from the break off actually from the telescope is there.
That's still
and then they have what it's like to train in our pool, which is really cool. They have a very immersive experience there.
There's like a video.
So it's really very realistic.
That plays in the back, right? There's like a video back there.
Yeah,
you can watch
it makes it. It's exactly. It really brings back the memories for me because we spent so much time training in that pool.
Yeah.
So that's unbelievable, getting a chance to. That's my favorite place to go, actually. It's my happy place now.
Really?
Yeah, I just go in there and
go in there and check it out. It's a very kind of soothing, like there's like the water.
It is, and that's kind of what it's like, and it brings back the motion, the lighting, the discussion that we were having. I mean, that was the the noise in the background. It's incredible because you do these things and they're very meaningful.
Yeah.
But then they end, and you move on, and now it's nice to see. It's nice to be able to relive some of that here at the museum.
That's
so
awesome.
How does that compare? Because you did quite a bunch of spacewalks repairing Hubble. So how did it compare training in the neutral buoyancy lab, the giant pool, to actually doing it out in space?
Yeah, the pool is the best way to get ready for the flight.
Okay.
To be able to prepare for this. There's no better way to do it than to do it in the what's the matter
neutral,
with me?
The NBL.
In the NBL.
Yeah, the NBL.
Okay.
Neutral
So
buoyancy
what
lab.
it does is it gives you the opportunity to work in the suit, to get your position right, to work the teamwork between your buddy and you and the rest of the team, so you can practice crew coordination. But you can begin start to finish and do a spacewalk in one day there. And it prepares you to do the job, the work with the tools and the telescope and the shuttle and your team very, very well. And what it lacks is it doesn't give you the visual.
Right.
I mean, holy crap, I'm in space.
Yeah.
So it doesn't provide that.
That's
you're
it's
in
like,
a pool.
hey, that's the side of a pool. Yeah.
Right. You're in this water and scuba divers and there's no stars or anything like that. So, but it prepares you to do your job better than anything I can imagine. It's just great. It really is.
So that's kind of a big thing. Like you were talking about the tools you have over there, and you would practice in the pool with some of the tools you had, and then it was kind of an iterative thing. They could go and they could change a tool before the actual mission if you were having trouble grasping it or moving it a certain way.
So we designed the one we spent probably the most time. We spent a lot of time on a lot of tools, but there's one shown here that's a power tool that we designed.
Yeah.
Particularly for our flight. We had a bigger power tool. There's a picture of it.
Right.
That was used for Hubble and also to build the space station. It was a high torque tool, a fairly powerful tool. It went up to 60 RPM, and it worked great. But it was kind of big.
Yeah.
We wanted something more like you would find in a hardware store, which was a high speed up to 300 RPM or so, with a light on it, so we could see what we were doing inside the telescope, and kind of not necessarily high torque and power, but high speed and better feel, so we could get these smaller screws. We had lots of small screws, 117 on one repair that I did, and I think it was like 37 on another one at John Grunsfeld.
117 screws.
So a lot of screw, a little screw. You didn't want to, you wanted a special. So to design that, we kind of started from scratch with that, and that was a really important tool and fairly complicated with lots of features on it, and that took a while, but that's what it was. We try a prototype. We get the thing in the water, and of course it wouldn't work because the casing leaked and took out the electronics the first couple of times. Stuff like that. You just keep trying until you get it right.
Get it working.
Right. Or get it good enough anyway.
What do you do with the screws? I mean, you take a screw out. There's 117 of the things. You can't like you've been working on a car at home and you drop the screw into the engine and you're like, well, that one's gone. I'm never going to find that again.
Yeah.
That's not an option with the Hubble Space
No,
Telescope.
it's not.
You can't just let it go into the
engine.
engine.
And it was it wasn't just screws. There were washers around each one of these screws. And there was also staking, which is glue on the threads, so that they would never back out. When they put these instruments are flying on the space shuttle.
Then you went to take them all out, and they're not supposed to come out.
It was never intended for it to come out.
Yeah.
So what we did is we put a capture plate, and there's one of the capture plates is actually here.
Right? Yeah.
And so the capture plate would be installed. We did some tricks sort of to create a way to mount it onto the cover. So it was more or less a cover that was covering the electronics that we needed to pull out and replace.
It's almost like a template sort of thing that would go into a certain place.
Right. So what that did, it was a piece of plexiglass, more or less, Lexan, that had holes in it that lined up with each one of the screws that we needed to take out. So the holes were large enough so that the tool head could go through.
Okay.
But small enough so that the screw could not float out.
Screw wouldn't come back out, so it gave you access to it.
Right, so everything floated inside behind this panel. And you can see that here at the museum.
Yeah, it's right.
It's
we
very
walked
clever.
around.
Yeah.
The entire center of the exhibit over there is a bunch of tools on it. It's like like you can walk
Stuff
around.
We actually had on in space with us.
There was there's a card puller or something too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which we can kind of relate to. I put together this computer here, which involves plugging
cards in.
A lot
of wires there, yeah.
It's a lot of wires, right?
Yeah.
But when I plug a card in, I'm just like, and I plug it in. No big deal.
Yeah.
You don't just do that with a Hubble Space Telescope.
No.
Like, it has to go a very specific.
Yeah, and there's a lot of pins. Like on the card I replaced, it had 120 pins on the back. Those little pins. So I mean, it was intended never to do this in space. That's the kind of thing you would do in a very clean environment. And so, that was part of the issue is that you weren't working in a in a lab or in a clean room or in a shop or something where you could do this, or even in your living room. You're working in space. So we had special tools to help us remove the cards that needed to come out, and then a tool to help us put it back in and seat it so that it would make good contact. And you had to be really careful. I had to line up perfectly.
Yeah.
But you bent one pin, you're out of luck.
Did you all have spares?
We did. We had a spare electronics board for each one of those boards, but still, I think I'm trying to remember. I can't remember if the pins were on the. I don't know if the pins were on our side or on the side of the, on the side of the telescope. It's on the instrument side. So
in any event,
I can't remember.
Yeah, in any event, you're not going to run down to Ace Hardware and grab another copy.
Yeah,
I think go back up
the
pin.
We also had things we could do if you bent a pin, because there's lots of things we had that had pins.
Yeah.
If there was a bent pin, or if you took off a connector and had a bent pin, you could try to straighten it out. But that wouldn't be really a good thing to do. So you wanted to be really careful, and you want to make sure you seated it correctly.
So there was the one thing I got to ask you about this. There's the one thing where you had something that got stuck, and you had to apply a little elbow grease to it.
Yeah.
It was kind of like not planned.
Right.
Like, can you tell us about what that was?
Yeah, it was a handrail that needed to come out of the way so I could get to this electronics board cover and get to all these little screws that needed to come out. And so the handrail had two screws on the top and 2 screws on the bottom, and they were pretty big. They weren't these little screws. We were using a big power tool for it.
Right.
We weren't concerned, but
because it was a handrail instead of like a delicate component.
Right, it was a big thing. It wasn't an issue. So we didn't think it would be an issue. We were worried. We thought about everything else except that, because it would never give us any trouble. We didn't think it would. But out of the 4 screws, 3 of them came out fine, but one ended up being I stripped it when I was trying to get it out, and it wasn't going to come out. And so they came up with the idea, a bunch of really smart guys, Jim Corbo and Jeff Roden and James Parker. These guys came up with James Cooper. James Parker was a professor of mine at Columbia. James Cooper. Got to get those names right because they're very important people in my life. And their teams around them. It wasn't just them, but the teams around them. They got together this plan while we were spacewalking, and it was a Sunday, and they worked. Jim Corbo was in Houston, and he called those guys up, and they discussed what they might be able to do. And they were running around the Goddard Space Flight Center, get tools together to test this on a Sunday, seeing who was around. And they came up with the idea, and they determined it would take 60 pounds of force just to pull the thing off.
To pull it off, just to break the screw or whatever,
just snap it off. And by the time they did all this troubleshooting and all this testing and the plan got approved, it was quite a while. It was about over an hour that it took for that. I mean, and that may not seem like a lot of time, but that is a lot of time. Yeah, we were outside spacewalking, So, the problem happened while I was spacewalking, and we needed to solve it quickly, because if you delay too much, you need to have enough time to do the repair. And, and so if you start delaying by a lot, then you're never going to get, even if you get the thing fixed, you don't have enough time to finish, and you don't want to start something you can't finish, so they would have to call it off. So, but that handrail is here. You can see it here.
It's actually here.
Yeah,
and you pulled it off.
I ripped the thing off, and then and now it's in the museum here.
I remember watching that live on. And my biggest concern was
you were the guy.
Yeah, I was that one guy on NASA TV. No, but I remember the big thing that a lot of us were worried about was the sharpness of that metal. Because had you know it was going to shear off clean and not rip the space, was that a concern? And how did you?
Oh yeah, no, that's a big concern, and it's also doing anything to scramble debris that might either come out and get me or Mike Good, Bueno, my spacewalking buddy, was right next to me, so we didn't want something to come out and get us. We were working together on this thing, and we also didn't want any debris to go in the telescope. I thought we would be okay, but I was afraid of like little shards or something going up there. If it's a sharp edge, we were just going to stay away from it. But what we did was we taped it. We had tape available to us
to kind of like capture
Kapton taped it, and we taped the bottom of it, and Mike and I used our scouting skills to do that, and and we taped it up, and in this way anything that came off was captured. And you could I don't know if they show it here, but there's some I've got some of the images of the tape that we put it in a disposal bag, which is a fancy name for garbage bag.
A garbage bag.
It's
probably got an acronym, right? It's like
no, it was disposal bag, and it was a special one for that handrail. And so they study everything when they get back, and the tape. I've seen photos of the tape, and there was a lot of metal little
kind of
pieces
caught
of
in
metal
there.
caught
That's
in
a good
there,
idea.
So it worked. Yeah.
It's like you make do with the tools you got on hand.
That's right.
You
That's
plan
what
as much as you can.
Right.
But
And I didn't even know there was tape available to us.
oh yeah.
I had no idea. They had to tell me where it was. It was in like a spare toolbox on the shuttle.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know where.
Yeah,
I mean, I
go
kind
to the toolbox 32A.
I mean, actually, I knew we had tape. I didn't know where it was. There was no plan to ever use it.
Yeah.
I mean, you see a lot of things before you fly, and I knew the tape was there, and I knew it didn't work all that great neither. But because it's it's hard to tape things in space.
Yeah.
But it worked fine that day.
Yeah.
Gosh, so you got it done. You finished the repair mission.
Mm-hmm.
You went up there twice, right? Was that the first or the second mission?
That was the second mission
that was the second
we were
mission.
talking about, yeah.
And there were other missions that went up there and repaired it as well, right?
Yeah, there was
quite a few.
Total of five
Yep.
servicing missions, right? And and another mission that launched it. So in total, six missions, including the one that launched it, and then 5 repair missions.
Yeah, 5 repair missions and
That's
repair and upgrade missions too, because they installed some better components of it.
Right, they were repair. Yeah, they really weren't. Yeah, see, it depends how you look at it. They really kind of what we say servicing. So
servicing.
Some of it
missions,
is some of it is repairing stuff that's worn out.
Yeah.
But even the stuff that was worn out when we put the new units in, it was better.
It was
better stuff, better
'cause-
technology.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the amazing thing is, you were
No.
taking these out that were never meant to be taken out of these telescopes either,
Right.
right?
For those 2 repairs, yeah. So normally we would do, as you point out, sorry, is we would remove a whole instrument and replace it with a whole new one.
Yeah.
In this case, there was 2 instruments: the Advanced Camera for Surveys and the Space Telescope Imaging Spectrograph, which were very large instruments. They're about the size of a refrigerator. Standard refrigerator.
Really?
Yeah, big. They're big.
Jeez.
So normally you'd remove the whole thing and put a whole new one in, but we didn't have replacements for these, and these were really important, expensive instruments. But they stopped working. In both cases, it was a short in a power supply, so we just needed to replace the power supply.
Okay.
All the optics and everything else was working fine. The
We can relate
detectors
to
and
that,
everything was fine. So the power supply had to be replaced, which looked like a computer board.
Gotcha.
In each case. So that was what was never planned.
Okay.
But the other stuff, removing the whole instrument, putting it back in, that was planned, and even those came with its own challenges. Even though they were planned and done before and so on, you still everything always posed a challenge to you, and things happen that you didn't expect. And
Yeah.
you had to deal with
It's like the thing you train for the way things are supposed to go, and you train for what you're supposed to do when things go wrong. But there's always going to be an element of we're going to have to figure stuff out in the field.
you can't think of
it's
everything.
not like a robotic sort of
No.
thing, right? You're not going to send a robot up there to do this
You can't think
stuff.
of everything, and you don't worry so much about the stuff you thought about. It's the stuff
exactly.
that you don't know that's out there.
Yeah.
That's you're gonna discover that day, and if it's gonna be something that you can recover from or not.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So do you have any, we're talking a lot about the Hubble missions. Do you have anything else? We've got a lot of younger people watching right now. We've got people that are interested in space and science. We play video games. We're still looking at the ISS here, guys. But do you have anything, like any advice for people that are interested? It maybe they want to be an astronaut. Maybe they want to be an aerospace engineer. What do you think about that?
Well, I think whatever they want to be, they should try to do it.
Yeah.
And not be discouraged when things don't go well. I mean, it's I'm talking about these things that happen, but the path to become an astronaut, and even after being an astronaut, is not, it's not easy.
It's not
and
a
there's
cakewalk.
there's a lot of setbacks and failure and things happening, and I think sometimes the tendency is to think, well, I can't do this because I failed this test or something, so I can't be whatever the heck it is, or no matter whatever your aspiration is, and I don't think that matters as much. I think that really what matters is what you want to do, and everyone has setbacks. You can't let it stop you. You got to keep going. So I think no matter what they're interested in doing, they should just hang in there.
That's an important thing. That's just a good lesson to learn. Just because something goes wrong once or twice, we do everything we can to keep it from going wrong. We prepare, we study, whatever it is, but things may still go wrong. And that doesn't mean you give up.
Things
just
will
because,
go wrong.
Yeah, things will go wrong.
You don't have to worry about the may.
Yeah,
It will go wrong, right?
It's just when that happens, don't give up on it. You keep on sticking to it,
Right, unless it's total death and destruction, keep going.
Yeah. Just keep on keeping on, sort of deal.
Yep.
So, Sawyer.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah. I mean, people don't realize this probably just seeing it in the stream, but you are a very tall person.
I am a tall
It's a
person.
very tall person.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So, how big is Hubble, and was it like a tight squeeze to get inside the telescope to fix some of these
inside the
things?
telescope.
Wait, you went
is pretty
inside?
low. Yes, you have to. So even some of the stuff you can remove from the outside without going in there, but for the work we did, we had to get inside. to replace the gyros and to do this repair.
Ah.
So being a taller person, Sawyer, is actually an advantage when you're
Really?
spacewalking because you can reach.
Just have more reach, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like working around your kitchen. And you can float, but you want to be stable and foot restraint, or somehow stable and steady when you're working. And so that means you can reach everything with your arms and hands, and in one particular occasion without having to reconfigure So like being able to replace the gyroscopes inside the telescope, I was able to use I have long arms, so I was able to unhook them and do all that work easier than a person with shorter arms would have.
It's almost like you have a bigger work area because you can stay stable, you can
stuff.
stay connected, I guess.
Right, but the other thing is like getting jammed inside of there is not so easy, and then kind of big. We had to be really careful I didn't break anything on the way in. So Mike Good, my spacewalking buddy, and I practiced a lot in the pool. We talked about it. We practiced in the pool, and a lot of our training was just for he and I, with the help of our instructors and crewmates, to figure out how the heck he was going to get me inside there to be able to do that. And so you had to be really careful because you can't really bang things around in there.
You're not just elbowing your way in.
You can't. There's a lot of fragile stuff.
Bull in a china shop sort of deal.
We had a very distinct technique on how to get me in and out of there.
I got you. I think we might have popped your mic down a little bit. Yeah, move your mic up just a little bit.
Right.
There we go.
Awesome.
Okay.
There were 2 astronauts on the EVA.
Yeah, you always have 2.
And are there like 2
Sometimes
different
I've
jobs?
had 3,
or?
but generally it's 2.
Okay. Is there like one that like moves around and one that's like fixed
Yeah,
in a position?
and normally it depends on the spacewalk, but for us, we almost always had one person on the robot arm.
Okay.
So you're on a foot restraint on the robot arm, and so when you're getting moved around by the robot arm operator, and on my second flight my first flight was Nancy Curry primarily, and on my second flight it was Megan MacArthur, and then Scott Altman, our commander, relieved them from time to time doing that, but they would move you around on the robot arm, put you in position.
So the astronaut that's they've got their feet clamped onto the end of the arm.
Yeah, they're
called
the RMS spacewalker, more or less.
Okay.
The spacewalker on the RMS. So there's a foot restraint that you can install at the end.
Right.
It also has like a work platform on it, what we call a stanchion, that allows you to have a bunch of tools nearby, which is good. And that whole thing gets moved around very precisely by the robot arm operator.
So it's not like the astronaut, like you're on a high lift or something. You've got a little joystick moving.
No, you don't
around.
control it
Somebody
yourself.
Else is moving you.
Yeah, you have
Really?
the astronaut, and you can tell. So you sometimes, after you through your training, what happens is the arm operator knows exactly where you need to go,
exactly.
almost better than you do.
It's like a ballet almost.
So
they
know exactly where to go. They've been watching you. They know what they need to do to put you where. So after a while, you just say, at first you start out like, give me 4 inches here, a foot and a half there, or whatever.
Right.
And that's usually incorrect. They're better off. They can actually know, once they know what you're trying to do, they can put you in position.
It's almost like they're flying you in third person. They can kind of see where you are, and they can see that. They have like more of an overview.
And they're really dedicated to what they're doing, and their job is to put you where you need to go. So that's one. Usually I have one person there, and the advantage of that is that you can handle big objects. So you can pick up a big instrument, a big piece of equipment, and move around with it. When the other astronaut out there is the free floater, which means that he or she is getting around using their hands. They're not on the platform of the RMS.
Like crawling around, but you're
tethered
using
your hand. You always have a safety tether on, and if you're going to be stationary for a while, you tether yourself locally, so you don't float away from the work site.
I gotcha. So it's not like pulling a George Clooney, like flying all over the place.
Nah,
like
you don't do any of that. No, we don't. No, that looked pretty cool, but
no. Look cool.
Yeah.
Can't do that. No, we don't have that. Around the Hubble we don't have that thing anymore. It's a man maneuvering unit. He was zipping around, and they didn't use that for a long time.
I gotcha.
Yeah, no cowboy stuff.
No cowboy stuff. Because I mean, it's an expensive instrument. We want to get it fixed.
Yeah, but it was cool in the movie, though. I liked seeing him do it in the movie.
That's how we actually move. I'll show you something else in the game. That's how we actually move around in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Let me hop back over this way.
And while you're pulling that up, I'll just ask you. Really
Go.
So there were 5 spacewalks pretty much on those missions, right?
There were. Yeah, both my missions. Yeah.
So you only did.
I did
you didn't
2.
do all 5, right?
Yeah.
So what were you doing for the other spacewalks?
So you're inside helping the other guys, is what it is. So when you have there's 4 spacewalkers on a mission, 2 teams, 2 and 2, and when the two of the astronauts are outside, the other 2 are inside helping. So they're called the IV, the intervehicular astronaut. And what we do inside is we keep track of everything, and we read them the checklist. And so it really is, it's all really a team effort. It's also the guys in the ground, too. Who is that dude in the spacesuit there?
That's one of, I actually don't know this name here. This is
So that's what you do when you're inside.
Yeah.
So you're helping the other guys.
This is just one of our Kerbal knots. One of the things we do is we pull people out of chat and we let them fly around. But
okay.
This is how we move around. They've got their own little kind of maneuvering unit, and it's got little RCS sources. But you've got to learn like how to translate yourself around.
Yeah.
And one of the important things in the game is not get going like 40 meters per second while
you're
flying.
Too fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you can come around. You've got like a light
home.
gear, so you can turn on your light and it'll actually point the lights different places. There's the cupola on the station.
All right, that's
but
nice.
we don't have safety tethers in the game. It's kind of a thing that has been noticed is that the Kerbals never get tethered to anything.
Yeah.
So we don't. Oops. Let me not run into what is that? That's Kibo, and that's the open, not open air laboratory, the exposed facility. Thank you. Yeah. With a couple of little science experiments on it. But this is how we fly around in Kerbal Space Program using our little jetpacks. But this is not like we do it in real life. We tether ourselves in, we make sure that it's safe. We don't do any cowboy sort of like stunts like this, right? Because we can break the solar panels off.
Yeah, you don't hit your head on the solar
I don't
panels
want to
too,
break my solar panels off my space station. This would be a bad thing.
That's right.
But we've even got the whole thing like over on our space station, we've got the Quest joint airlock over here. And this is where they would normally come out of the space station. I just hopped out the side of the Soyuz. Don't tell anybody.
Okay. Right.
It's, you know, nothing kept me from doing that. But we would normally come out of the, what is this, the Nadir side of the Joint Quest airlock. On here, it's called the Joint Questionable Airlock.
Yes.
Because it doesn't work exactly right sometimes. But no, I just wanted to compare and contrast sort of things. Whoa, that wasn't us. Sort of the way things go in real life, where we're very safe and we tether in. And
Yeah,
sure
you're really, it's kind of slow and
yeah,
it's kind of, you know, it's kind of like watching grass grow when you're watching a spacewalk.
But you don't want to go
really slow,
hurtling off into space.
No, no, that's not a good idea. So on space, you always have a safety tether on. You always want to be stable and close to your work site. So what we have usually, even if you're a free floater,
right, is
you have a local tether attached to at your work site. So in case you let go, you're not going to go, you know, more than a couple feet away. You can get back. But when you're moving around, even you always have a safety tether attached. If you're on the robot arm, you have a safety tether attached to the robot arm, which means even if you were to get out away from wherever it is you are, you have this reel attached to you that's going to bring you back. On the shuttle.
Do you pull yourself in, or does it?
No, generally the reel. I mean, you don't want to test it like that, but
right.
But theoretically, if that happened to you and you came off, and if you just kind of did nothing, the reel has enough tension to wind you back.
Really?
Yeah, because it's there's no gravity, there's nothing working on you. So my plan was if I got a little far away from something and I couldn't reach anything, I would just wait, and the safety tether would draw me back in. If you go and do something a little more violent, you might need to, do something else. But
my Kerbal's going to go.
That's not good. Yeah.
We try not to run into the solar array.
On the shuttle, if our safety tether failed, which no reason it ever would, but for some reason if it did, and you started flying away, or floating away, like really floating away without a tether, then the shuttle commander would come. We practiced this, and they practiced it in the simulator. It's called an EVA crew rescue. They would come get you.
The whole shuttle fly to come get you?
Yeah, because you could fly the shuttle around. But that you can't fly around the station like that. So they have a little jetpack. We didn't have it on Hubble.
Okay.
They have a little jetpack called SAFER, which stands for Safety something Rescue
acronym,
for EVA or whatever. EVA Rescue or something. But so it's a little kind of backpack thing they're wearing.
Okay.
That allows them to get back to structure on the station.
That's on. Is it called SAFER?
SAFER, like SAFER.
Something like that. Yeah. That's on the astronauts that are on EVA. They each wear that just as like an emergency backup.
It's something for EVA Rescue is the last part of it. I can't remember the essays in.
Gotcha.
So anyway,
who knows with all the acronyms? I don't know.
We can see it means something. It's probably not that difficult. I'm drawing a blank.
Did you have any time to admire the view?
Yeah, absolutely. You do, and not as much as you'd like, but there never could be enough time. But yeah, it's just magnificent to look around at it. The planet's beautiful. It's beyond words, really. It's just magnificent.
This is kind of what we get, right?
It's pretty good right there. Yeah.
We're in like a game.
That's beautiful.
And we're inspired. It's like, man, the sun goes. We get sunrises and sunsets, and it's all in the computer game.
Your water looks a little deep, a little darker.
Yeah. We got some mountains sticking up out of the clouds.
Yeah,
that's a little problem. But you can even see the reflection of everything in her visor,
that's
right?
Cool.
So you can see the space station, you can see the planet and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
This was a big deal to us. Just recently, we have female Kerbal knots. Kerbal. It used to just be there were just Kerbals,
Just
and now we
dudes
have
flying around?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now we've actually got females. She's a little
Okay.
ponytail and stuff, but that was important for kids
All right.
as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
But
So just
man,
a reminder, we do have a space shuttle behind us.
we do.
So
Right there.
the space shuttle.
Did y'all see it?
The
Yeah.
space shuttle, obviously now it's retired, 30 years, amazing service. You got to fly in it twice. What are your thoughts reflecting back on the shuttle program?
I think the shuttle is, if you look at, well, one thing you could do is you look at this shuttle, and then in front of it, hey, Ellen, and if you look in front of it, we've got a Soyuz,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So there's a big difference between those two. The Soyuz is little,
Yeah, no kidding.
and the shuttle's really big, right? So I don't think we're going to have anything like this shuttle for a long time. We're going back now,
Yeah.
even with Orion and these other spaceships, more like the capsule sort of.
Capsule
or-
design,
yeah, I don't
yeah.
really call them as capsules. That's not a good thing to call them, just because. So we call them smaller spaceships that are blunt bodies, which can take the heat and occur, and much better. They don't land on a runway necessarily.
Yeah.
They don't land like an airplane anyway, like
Right,
the
right.
shuttle does. But because of all those things the shuttle did, and it's it did everything. It took cargo, it took crew, it returned a lot of stuff, it landed on a runway. Because of all these things, it was really expensive to fly.
Yeah.
More so than they ever thought it was going to be.
Yeah, no kidding.
And it was a bit dangerous.
We learned though.
So
we thought it was going to be one way, and we learned the realities of operating something like this.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
and then we started losing them. We had 2 major accidents.
Right.
And we would keep having them if we kept flying the shuttle. So I think it was a magnificent vehicle. I think it's the coolest spaceship we've
No
ever
kidding.
had.
No kidding.
I think it'll probably be the coolest one we have for a very long time.
Yeah.
But its time the time to retire it had come, and I look forward to the
complicated
new
piece of
stuff we're going to
machinery.
be flying. My friends are going to be. They just announced a couple of my friends are going to be what they call commercial crew astronauts,
Right.
working with SpaceX and Boeing on their new vehicles.
Yeah.
And years after that, we'll probably have an Orion spacecraft coming. And
Yep.
so I think right now we missed the shuttle, but I think we're going to get some new stuff coming up here. It'll be pretty
It was
cool.
an
Yeah.
inspiring thing. It's an inspiring thing to lose, but we're going to have more things in the future.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I was going to load up. We do all the things as well. So we've got an Orion mission that we run in our game. We've got Falcon. We can actually do a boost back. We can do a landing of the first stage on the Falcon using
cool.
the game. So all those things, just whatever it is in spaceflight, spectrum technology, we love to go over it in the game so that we
Right.
can review it with our viewers and show what's going on. I was just going to load up. We've got a little bit of a Falcon 9 thing there. This is an unmanned one, just like it is in real life. It's got the open air trunk. I keep saying open air. There's no air up
crashed.
there. Oh, look at that. The game crashed.
But
well, that's
I was
okay.
talking
We're in
with
full version anyways.
because I was talking with Sonny about that a few weeks ago. Sonny Williams, one of the 4 who was selected. It's exciting. Would you, if given the chance, go up in one of the commercial vehicles?
There you go.
Given the opportunity, sure, yeah, but they're not asking me anymore. I'm not
Yeah,
I'm not at NASA any longer,
but
so,
you've got,
but yeah.
You've got a great gig here at the Intrepid. You're also
Yeah.
a professor at Columbia, right?
Yep.
What do you teach there?
I'm in the mechanical engineering department there, and I help with a little research. I do some outreach for the school. I work with students as much as possible. I teach a class on space flight, and I also help with a class for all the new first-year freshman engineers every year. I get to work a little bit with them in their Art of Engineering, Introduction Engineering class. So
Cool.
yeah.
I wish I could take a class with you, that's for sure.
You're welcome anytime.
Can we just
Sawyer.
come up
Thank
there and
you.
walk in?
You
and act like we're
absolutely
supposed to be
can.
there?
You
No,
guys can.
We can audit it. I appreciate.
You can come on by. Absolutely.
Can we stream it?
No, I don't even know what that means.
That's
But
always
the
my
answer,
question.
the answer
That's
to you
always
is
my
no.
question. No.
Just by the way you asked
Oh,
it.
man.
Oh,
geez.
ouch.
No, because the way you asked it.
Could we- could
no,
we
I don't even know what the hell that
stream
means. No, there's no way. Can't. No.
Oh, man.
Answer is no. I don't even know what you're talking about, but the answer is no.
All
Doesn't
right.
sound like a good idea.
We're out of time right now.
All right.
I totally appreciate you
Yes.
spending time with
Sure.
us. Mike,
Thanks for
thank
having
you
me,
so
man.
much.
Good luck.
We appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you. Good to
So
see
it's
you
always
again.
a pleasure seeing you,
Always
man.
a pleasure to see you,
All right,
Sandy.
buddy.
Guys, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in about 5-10 minutes. Thank you for watching again. Astronaut Mike Massimino, thank you for your time, sir.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
All right, we will take a break, guys. Mute? Do we mute?